question. Of that I'm sure. She smiled at me on the subway. She was with another man. But I won't lose no sleep on that, 'cause I've got a plan. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. It's true. I saw your face in a crowded place, and I don't know what to do, 'cause I'll never be with you.
Hi, welcome to your snowy online class. I'm so sorry, but class has been canceled tomorrow, and unfortunately we have a ton of things that need to be taught, seeing as how Friday's class was canceled as well. So you get my lovely voice and screenshots, and to see how not technically savvy I am. So I hope you enjoy this, and please go and look at the discussion board questions at the end based on the TED Talk that you watched and the films that you'll be seeing within this, film clips that you'll be seeing within this. And all of that will be due by, let's say, Monday night, because you need to be watching this during our class time. So by midnight Monday night, hopefully you will have all of your discussions posted. This is what will count as your participation for Monday's class. So anyways, enjoy. Click on it, and you can see the assignment here, which we kind of covered in our last class. But here it is all laid out for you. Remember, 3 to 4 minutes long. Remember, you need to dress for success, or I will not allow you to speak. If you're not allowed to speak, you get a 0. Be creative. And right here is your rubric at the very bottom. All right, so let me go over to our PowerPoint here. What else do I need to talk about? Weekly responses are still due on Sunday at midnight. It will cover Chapter 5. Hopefully we will have lecture this coming Friday on Chapter 5. And any old bag speeches, like I mentioned, are the 27th, which is this Wednesday, and next Monday. You need to get with your partner and make an appointment at the Speaking Center and turn in your self-critique that you fill out completely with the Speaking Center and your partner, and that needs to be turned in on the 5th on Canvas. So we're going to be going over application 2 and 3, but let me show you this example of an any old bag speech. Stand by.
Any old bag speech. I feel like that would be such a fun.
All right, here we go. So let's watch this, and on a discussion board in Canvas, we will be discussing this.
Like, gonna tell you a speech about my any old bag, but I kind of forgot my any old bag. I don't have a bag, sorry. So, from the past, I have my glasses so I can like remember like what I did. My future, well, I don't really have anything for my future, so I guess it's like the air because it's up in the air right now. For the future, I have a ring for my boyfriend because like I'm gonna marry him in the future, and he's like my whole world. And yeah, is time up yet? Am I done? Thanks.
Okay, so that is our example of the any old bag speech. Yes, there are quite a few problems, but maybe you can find 1 or 2 things that she did well as well. So on the discussion board, there will be a prompt for you to fill out some questions on that any old bag speech. Alright, there will also be a prompt. As you recall, you were needing to watch the TED Talk by Amy Cuddy. There will be a prompt discussion as well on her TED Talk. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully you will find it useful not just for your speeches in this class, but also for interviews and other speeches in your career. So we come to a click it question in our PowerPoint. Tell me about yourself. So the way you answer this question reveals your A, self-concept, B, looking glass self, C, ideal self, or D, self-fulfilling prophecy. Which do you think it is? The answer is self-concept. These are all located in Chapter 2. You will need to know the definitions of these concepts. Really important to this class is how do you reduce glossophobia? Do you remember what glossophobia is after reading Chapter 2? Yes, the fear of speaking. So here are several concepts that they use in this chapter. Harness your nervousness. You want to be able to channel your fear. Some fear is actually good when you're giving a speech. Why is this? Well, you can use that anxiety and that fear that's built up inside to make your speech really exciting, make people interested in it. And that's what this harnessing of your nervousness is. Convert it to the animated delivery of your speech. Immersion and habituation. This means the more exposure you have to public speaking, the less fear that you will have about it. So yes, practice can make perfect. The more that you do this and speak in front of people, the less fear you will have eventually. The next one's cognitive restructuring. What is this? This has to do a lot with the video that we watched of the TED Talk from Amy Cuddy. It's taking negative self-talk and turning it into positive self-talk. It's also positioning yourself to be more positive. So it's cognitive, it's in your brain, you're thinking about it, and you're trying to restructure that so that you can be more positive and feel better about it, thus losing some of that anxiety that you have. The next one is systematic desensitization. This is incremental desensitization. So, for example, I think the book uses a fear of snakes. If you see pictures, first of all, on your computer and read like Wikipedia about different snakes, that's maybe step 1. Step 2 might be going to a nature science center and seeing behind the thick glass a live snake in its habitat at the Natural Science Center. That would be step 2. Step 3 could perhaps be seeing one in a far distance in your lawn or at a park. And step 4 would actually be maybe touching a non-poisonous and harmful snake. So within steps, you're desensitizing yourself to that. The next one is visualization. A lot of athletes use this. They see, for example, they see themselves in a basketball game as going up and taking the last 4 steps to the hoop, dribbling the ball, and they see themselves jumping high up and lifting the ball up with their hand and then hitting it against the backboard to make a basket. And they see that over and over again, themselves being successful in whatever it is that they want to accomplish in the game. So that is visualization. So you too can do that. You can imagine yourself giving a perfect speech. Imagine yourself smiling. Imagine yourself not stuttering. Imagine yourself talking coherently about what it is that you want to relay to your classmates. So all that would be visualization. It also can be when you already have given your any old bag speech and you're getting ready to prepare for the second speech, which is the informative speech. And in that, you're knowing what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And in that, you know how to handle those weaknesses maybe a little bit better. You're prompted to know that perhaps you do not have a great attention grabber at the very beginning of the speech. So you know that you can prepare for that, and you visualize yourself giving a great attention-getting line that just hooks in your audience and has a perfect start to your speech. So that's another way of visualization. The last one is maximize control. And this again goes to what we will be discussing here in a minute, which is the 3 P's. And this goes to practicing. The more you practice your speech, the less anxiety you'll have for that, and the better prepared you will be. This also includes going to the Speaking Center. It's a great resource. It is free for all students, and not just including in this class, but you can go for any speech or presentation that you need to give while you're here at UNCG. So maximize control. So now we were to go partner up and answer this question. Which concept holds that the more you engage in public speaking, the less you tend to fear it? So out of all those I just discussed, which one is that? All right, hopefully you guessed habituation or immersion. That is the correct answer. So, in your textbook, they talked about several different types of speech delivery methods. There is the impromptu speech, which is something that you are just given at the last minute to discuss, or a question that's asked to you, and it's on the spur of the moment, and boom, you put it together. No preparation whatsoever. That's impromptu. There's the memorized speech, where you have memorized the entire speech. It's very performed, it's very cammed, it's not a very interesting speech for those that are in the audience, because you're usually not very animated about it, you're not asking questions, it's just a very memorized speech. The same for reading, which is the third type of speech delivery. This if you have something that has to be very precisely worded, a lot of press releases from the White House are read, and it's something that they have to be very careful with the words that they use. Legal court announcements are the same as this, as another example. So that is reading of your speech. We will not do that in our class. In our class, we will be attempting the last one, which is extemporaneous. Extemporaneous is a long, ugly word, but what it means basically is that you will have very few notes. Yes, you can use note cards, but you will be turning in those note cards. And why? Because I want you to use just a very few words that will prompt you to remember what it is that you're trying to tell about that particular point. Maybe it's a story that you're going to tell about a point, or maybe it's some facts or statistics that you're going to give. If you have a specific quote, then yes, you might want to write that quote down. You do not want to try to memorize that quote. So that could be on your extemporaneous note cards. But you do not write the entire speech. You just use very few words that prompt you to speak along throughout your speech. So as I mentioned, there's 3 P's. The first one is to prepare for your speech. So you need to select your topic. You need to analyze your audience, so it's audience adapted, taking them into consideration. All of the speeches you'll give in this class obviously are going to your classmates. And when we get later in the semester, you'll actually analyze them and see if some of your topic choices are something that they believe or not. For example, when we do the persuasive speech, well, if everyone agrees the same way that you do, then it obviously is not going to be a persuasive speech. It's something that you're just telling them the information that they already know and believe. So yes, you will need to analyze your audience throughout this class. And you will develop your approach as you prepare your speeches. The second P is practice, which we've already talked about, but basically there's different ways you can do that. The Speaking Center, as I've mentioned, but you can also record yourself. Get a friend to record you on the iPhone or other phone device and watch yourself so that hopefully you can improve. You might want to use a mirror and watch your facial expressions. And then finally, you might want to use family or friends to practice. Then lastly, you will be presenting it, and presenting it here in the classroom. So the next thing that we're going to talk about also has a video which we will watch. Let me click on this and we'll go over. It's talking about culture. So let's watch this video. Mean Girls, if you're familiar with that.
I was in the hospital for a year when I was a kid. All the doctors said I should give up sports.
Need to skip the ad here. Hold on one second.
Why don't I know you? I'm new. I just moved here from Africa. What? I used to be homeschooled.
Wait, what?
My mom taught me at home.
No, I know what homeschool is. I'm not retarded. So you've actually never been to a real school before?
Shut up.
Shut up!
I didn't say anything.
Homeschooled. That's really interesting.
Thanks.
You're like really pretty.
Thank you.
So you agree?
What?
You think you're really pretty?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh my god, I love your bracelet. Where did you get it?
Oh, my mom made it for me.
It's adorable.
So fetch.
What is fetch?
Oh, it's like slang from England.
So if you're from Africa, why are you white?
Oh my god, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white.
Could you give us some privacy for like 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you should just know that we don't do this a lot, so this is like a really huge deal.
We want to invite you to have lunch with us every day for the rest of the week.
Oh, it's okay. Coolness. So we'll see you tomorrow.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
Okay, so that clip kind of shows culture in an odd sort of way. And on the discussion board, I will ask a couple of questions about this as well. But basically, culture is a system of shared understandings and practices forming and transmitting meanings among a social group. It is something that's dynamic and changing over time. So there are 4 different facets of identity. These, I think, we're moving into chapter 3 now. These are relational, contested, contextual, and discursive identity. So relational identity is the relationship between yourself and your surroundings. It makes sense in relation to communities of people. Membership in this category is always a matter of degree. So what roles do we play, and what relationships are important here? That's relational. Contested, that second facet of identity, is defining identity by difference or contrast. It's always not a clear-cut identity, but it remains flexible. So we're continually rethinking and renegotiating categories and labels that designate the borders of identity. Third is contextual, where you define who you are according to surroundings. So in different contexts, what does it mean for you to be a college student? When you go home, do people treat you differently, the people that are maybe still in high school or from a different college? What does it mean to be a man or a musician or a woman? Which is the real you? So in different contexts, context matter here, you feel like you are defined differently. When you go home and you're with your family, you don't have the same context as when you're with friends, for example. So the fourth one is discursive, and this is about language, how language affects our identity and how we perceive the world. This is the way that we talk and how it affects how we see the world. Yeah. The language we have to choose from affects how we understand our experiences. Alright, this is an exercise which we are not going to be able to do. So let me click on. So there's 5 dimensions of culture that they discussed in Chapter 3. These dimensions help us understand how we and others respond to the world. And page 67 quote there, getting to know a person's cultural identity will give you only a small partial picture of who that person really is. So there's 5 different dimensions. They are individualism and collectivism, power distance, achievement and quality of life, time orientation, and uncertainty avoidance. So you need to think of these. Let me flip to the next slide. I'll come back to this. You need to think of these as along a continuum. They're, as you can see, they're in opposite directions here. So let me flip back now. So individualism and collectivism. This is best seen when you look at different countries, perhaps. The United States is a very individualistic country. Everybody is very out for, all about themselves and very independent. Versus the Asian countries, China, Japan, which are very collective societies. So there's easier collaboration in those societies. The more individualistic a culture, the more its members float from group to group. The second one is power distance. And this deals with how equally the power is distributed within the society. So it's high versus low. And I think there's a clip here. Let's go to this clip. Oops, it didn't clip over. Hold on one second. There it goes. This will help understand power distance.
Power distance. Do you feel more comfortable working in a strong hierarchy, or do you prefer a sense of equality with all of your colleagues? This sensibility is called power distance, and it concerns the degree to which power is distributed and expected in an organization or other culture. How does an individual or group perceive and respond to inequalities amongst people? In a high power distance culture, like the military or a large law firm or a country like Russia, a strong vertical hierarchy is expected. Think of the relationship of a general in the military to enlisted soldiers, or a senior law partner to a mere associate, or the Pope to a parish priest. In a high power distance culture, every person has a defined place and role. In a low power distance culture, say a unionized workforce, a legal services organization, or a country like Norway, there is a strong expectation of equality in power, in decision making, in benefits, and other work conditions. What about you? Do you prefer to give orders, or do you couch them as suggestions? Do you assume your boss, Mr. Gregory, should have a high design, fancy, large windowed office, even though you have only a small internal cubicle? Or do you envision that you and your colleagues are really more or less equal, with your supervisor, Suzanne, being only a little bit more equal and maybe only a supervisor in name? Your deep-seated assumptions about power distance will affect how you perceive and navigate relationships at work.
All right, so that was power distance. The next one is achievement and quality of life. This traditionally used to be called the masculine and feminine dimension. Masculine or high achievement is where societies value performance over relationships. So it used to mean that the expectations of men and women have to be different according to their traditional gender roles. So, for example, in public speaking, high achievement cultures focus on the competency and argumentational strength of the speaker. Whereas in the quality of life culture, they prefer building solidarity through discourse, and relationships are the primary concern. The next one is time orientation. So time orientation deals with the extent societies adopt a relatively long-term or a short-term view. So long-term shows patience and adapting to situations, whereas short-term shows more traditional and moral guidelines. So, for example, in public speaking, long-term cultures place value on wisdom and age, while short-term cultures are less persuaded by remote future effects. And the last one, the fifth one, is uncertainty avoidance, which deals with how a culture approaches the unfamiliar or the unknown, ambiguity. So high uncertainty avoidance cultures avoid ambiguity, whereas low uncertainty avoidance cultures embrace this ambiguity. All right, there's that continuum. And here was another question that we were going to ask. Whoops. So Julia just found out she will have to work with a group of 5 other students to create a presentation worth 25% of her course grade. She knows that if anything is going to be done right, she'll just have to do it all by herself. So which cultural dimension is best illustrated here? A, uncertainty avoidance, B, power distance, C, individualism versus collectivism, D, achievement versus quality of life. You know, this is an example of the questions, the type of questions that will be asked on your exam. They're all very situational. You'll need to know the terms and the definition of the terms, but it will not be cut and point definitions like my Canvas quizzes have been so far. This is going to be an example just like the exam will have. So we'll discuss this answer. Hopefully you've picked the right one. So all this boils down to culturally conscious communication. To improve our intellectual communication, we should avoid these things. So avoid stereotypes, minimize the biases, reduce ethnocentrism, reduce and control nervousness, have empathy and sympathy, and become other-oriented. Social decentering. So there's another great little clip here. Unfortunately, it's lost its sound, so it's going to be a silent clip, but it is a good one, and it has subtitles for you. So hopefully it will come on. Not sure why these are not picking up the first time. It has to pick up a second time. There we go. Now it goes. Alright, so I hope you enjoy this. Read the subtitles as you go through this. All right. Hopefully that shows you a little bit more about ethnocentrism. Let's see, we're going to skip through that, we're going to skip through that. So basically that's it for our PowerPoint and for this session. So you will need to go to the discussion tab in Canvas where I have not quite put up yet, but I will be putting up a couple of discussions that you will need to upload so that I can see that you've watched this video, watched the Amy Cuddy video, and have read chapters 2 and 3. Again, I'm looking forward to your Any Old Bag speeches starting on Wednesday, and I hope you've had a wonderful long weekend and are ready to get back to work. All right, see you guys. Bye.